Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to believe the pandemic's been 5 years ago, and we're still learning and we're still growing from the results of the pandemic that we've seen. All the things that we talk about, inflation, return to work, supply chain, all those things really have affected our businesses probably more than we ever actually talk about. I would say inflation in particular has really hit people. For us in particular in the lending business, we do a lot of construction lending. So we work with a lot of developers and builders. And the increasing costs for everything and how things have increased in cost makes it very difficult for them to plan and for them to budget. It's become more hard for builders and developers to afford projects just don't make sense. So it's one thing that inflation has gone up, and that's been a big hit on them. At the same time, interest rates have gone up, so their financing costs go up. And a deal that maybe penciled out and made sense in 2019 doesn't make sense today anymore just because of those two things. And so that's been a really hard challenge for them. And it's something they're really having a hard time adjusting to still to this day.
Clients do continue to face impacts of the pandemic, from supply chain to staffing to other issues. And across our clientele, I would say that probably the staffing and some of the supply chain are the biggest things. Now, many of the clients, I think, improvised around those issues and are kind of benefiting from those types of activities now. Specifically in our industry of public accounting, we actually, we're starting to kind of see the hybrid schedules and things change a little bit, in the sense that now some of the bigger firms and some of the other organizations are actually starting to have people come back full time. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how just those things work out across different industries. I mean, many of the clients I work with are manufacturers, and they've been back 100% from almost day one. So in other industries, service models, service industries and so forth, I think seeing how this one personnel issue gets managed, I think, is going to be really important.
Well, the business community has adapted very well post-pandemic. You have to adapt in business to meet your competition, to meet the landscape that's in front of you. And obviously, after COVID, the landscape changed quite a bit. I think that most of the folks that I'm talking to are optimistic about the future and confident that they now have some level of certainty on being able to move forward in a positive direction for their business.
We are 5 years on, almost 2 months away from the onset of the pandemic, and still 5 years later, we're observing that our clients are still navigating the effects of the pandemic. Primarily what we're seeing in the services industry is the tension between return to work, return to office, and then the employees or the service providers actually not wanting to return to the office, wanting to maintain that flexibility. And so we see that manifest differently in different sectors. So as mentioned, service providers, there's a big push for what we call the talent who wants to have at a minimum a hybrid work environment. And then you have management, CEOs that really feel that there's some synergies that occur, some efficiencies when you have everyone back in the office. So we're helping our clients navigate that. But many of the sectors have 100% return to office, primarily in the construction industry. So that is one area, because of course, with inflation, but then also you have the continued upward pressure of wages. So you kind of have a very interesting situation here with the economy. You have, you're still having a lot of challenges retaining and recruiting employees, and then an upward pressure from the talent on wages, and then having the supply chain issues, having pressures from the financial institutions, the ability to generate capital. So there is a real tension there. So what I see a lot of our clients doing is looking for different ways to attract talent that is not primarily based on wages and compensation. And the number one way to do that is through flexibility and the type of work environment that we're seeing a lot of the higher level workers and employees look for?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's really a focus on retention at this point. Labor market continues to be somewhat tight. And I think, most of our clients have kind of entered a new normal to some extent with their employee base, how to keep them engaged. I don't think remote work, at least part of the time, is going away anytime soon. So it's how do the policies get implemented, and how do they continue to engage with the workforce to keep people engaged with the companies.